All right, good afternoon. So this is the second part in our series where we're trying to make different components for a PC. Last week we looked at how to make a case. This week we want to understand what a motherboard is and model it. We're particularly focusing on how we can get pictures onto our 3D model, as well as just some simple geometry, like we're going to get some cuboids for these ports and things like that. So in Blender, you should have your keyboard shortcuts. We'll start with just the cube. I'm pushing my mouse wheel in and moving my mouse to look around. S to scale, moving my mouse, but I want to press Z and let go. Common mistake, people like hold their finger on the key. So I'm not pressing S and holding it down. I press and let go, and I press Z and let go. So that's a square or a cuboid. I'm going to S and Z and make it even thinner, and then just S to make it quite nice and big, and then flatten it a bit more. S, Z. There we go. So that's the basic outline of the motherboard that we're going to go for. What is a motherboard? Well, it's called a motherboard because it has daughter boards that plug into it, I suppose. It's the main circuit board that everything else connects to. So the CPU, the central processing unit, is going to plug in here. The graphics card is going to go in this PCIe slot. We've got some RAM slots here, and there should be a slot somewhere to plug in an SSD, although I can't really see that on this. Oh yeah, just in here. You can plug in your SSD, your fast storage. The other connectors, we're going to plug in our power supply into here, and then these are what poke out of the back of the case. You've got your audio connectors, and you've got your USB connectors and network connectors, and all of that. There's a battery here, so that even when it's not plugged in, the clock can keep track of the time. And then you've got a built-in chipset here to do all sorts of other stuff and other components and things that we won't worry too much about. So let's start with the simple geometry first. If we go into Tab, and that's Edit Mode, we can Shift and A to add another cube, G and X to move it across, S to scale. I don't know why it's really glitchy for me. That's annoying. It seems to only do that when I'm recording the screen. So I want to make this block of ports here. So GZ to lift it up. Let's look from another angle. GZ, something like that. GX, nope, GY, something like that. Last time we said if we just want to select individual vertices, this is fine. But I want to select faces, or press 3 on the keyboard. There we go, GZ. And it's really useful to be able to select all of the linked vertices at once. So new keyboard shortcut that you might want to add into your list is Control and L. That lets you select all the linked vertices. Look, these are separate objects. There's that, Control L, get all of those. Or this, Control L, get all of those. So let's get that, Control L. Move it close to the edge. GX. I'm going to try and put the little holes in here for the ports on the back of it. Can we see a different angle? Yeah, there we go. I'm going to put some little holes in here for some USB ports. How can we do that? Let's see. I'm going to do a loop cut. A loop cut is Control and R. Now I've pressed Control R and nothing's happened because I need to move my mouse over the line that I want to put a loop cut in. So we're going to click over here, click again, like that. Let's try again. Control R, over there. Control R, click and click. Control R, click and click. So each time I'm adding a loop cut, Control R, so that I'm going to be able to put some USB ports in here. What does that mean? That means I can select faces again, and extrude out or intrude in to get these so that they look like USB ports. Not perfect, but it'll do. Right. So you'll need to do this a couple of times. I'm going to go back into, I keep toggling between object mode and edit mode. Remember that's tab, the button to the left of Q on your keyboard. I want to do it in the same object. So within edit mode, let's Shift A, add another cube, move it over here, S to scale, look from a different angle, move it in the right direction until it's on the edge. I mean, we're going to have to kind of position these into the right place. but I want to be able to put a picture on. So I wonder if we can get a picture of this and then put that into Blender. Now, I don't think Amazon's going to... Oh, it might. Save picture as. Is that going to work? Maybe. Nice. Just going to put that in my pictures and call it as Motherboard. Pictures, Motherboard. So how do we get that picture on here? Well, first of all, we're not going to see it in solid mode. It has to be in material mode. Next, we need to be in the material editor, and we can choose the base color. Now, printed circuit boards tend to be a dark green with copper traces on, but this one looks quite stylish and is all kind of black. So instead of just a solid color, you can click the blob next to base color and choose an image texture. That's exactly what we want. As long as we choose which image, I'm going to go open and try and find that in my pictures. Did I call it Motherboard? Hopefully, all sorts of weird and wonderful pictures here. Don't judge me. Motherboard. Where is it? Microbit. There it is. Open image. Right. So it does not look right yet. Now that's because we've got a two-dimensional image. What do we mean by two-dimensional? I mean X and Y on a three-dimensional object, as in X, Y, and Z. So we're going to have to change the view mode. We're in layout at the moment. If we go to UV editing, you can see we have got a two-dimensional image splatted onto a net for a three-dimensional shape. You might have been in a maths lesson where you cut out bits of cardboard and you think, why on earth do we ever need to do this? Well, this is why. So, scroll across, go back into material mode over here. I want this face, clicking on it, to cover the whole of this area here. So I'm clicking over here, moving my mouse over here, pressing A to select all the vertices, G to grab, and watch what's happening on the right-hand side of the screen. As I move the two-dimensional space, the two-dimensional shape, the three-dimensional thing is changing on the right. S to scale, same keyboard shortcuts. Ugh, it's so glitchy. And I'm going to have to do SY to scale in the Y-axis, and then G. And it's not terrible. We've got a picture on there, but we've got a little bit of extra whiteness over there, and it's the wrong way round. So let's G to grab, to move across. SX. And it's still on the wrong side, so let's do S to scale, X to scale in the X-axis, and I'm going to scale it all the way over to the other side. Nice. So now we should be able to use that to help us put the bits in the right place. And it's actually not far off, is it? Let's get all of the linked vertices. That's Control L and move it across. All of the linked vertices and move it across. And I'm just going to duplicate that, to be fair. Shift D to duplicate along the Y-axis. Shrink it maybe down a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, just has to give us a rough idea. So I think you know enough now to be able to create a motherboard. You can put a couple of extra bits in here. I'm going to put the PCI Express slot that the graphics card goes in. And I'm just going to show you one more thing before I hand over to you for your challenge. Just pressing G to grab, S to scale, and pressing X, Y, and Z. So G, Y, pop that over here. GZ, move it down a bit. GX, across, SX, there we go. And then with this one selected, E to extrude, escape to cancel, S to scale. That's no good. I wanted it to be inset, and I've got these bits to be far too big. Control Z, Control Z. Let's use the inset faces instead. That's better. And then I can E to extrude and pull it down. It's not a perfect PCI Express slot because they have a little barrier over here, but it'll do. Right, last thing I'm going to show you is how do we make it so that this part is all one beige colour that's different to the rest. So I'm going to go back into the layout mode. Make sure we're in edit mode with tab. Control L to select all the linked vertices. We've currently only got one material. I'm going to double click and name that motherboard texture. Add a new material slot. Add a new material to that slot. Change the colour to a nasty beige that you tend to have for the PCI Express slot, and assign it. So that now has that material. I'll show you one more time with the battery over here. Shift A, I'm going to add a circle. Don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. And I need to fill it with F, extrude it up, get all the link vertices with Control L, scale it down, GZ, move it just above. There it is. GX, GY, GX. Not bad. So I want a nice... Oh, that's above the motherboard. GZ. Lovely. I want that to be a nice shiny silver. New material. New material in the slot. Double click. I'm going to call it battery or metal or whatever you want to call it. A shiny silver. Let's just make it more metallic and less rough, so that hopefully it should look reasonable. If we go on rendered mode, it's not great, is it? Yeah, more metallic, slightly rough. I don't know. You can experiment with this. Maybe I just want a little bit brighter. I think that will do. Right, see if you can do a better job at modeling a motherboard.